This isn't one of those 5 hacks to blow up overnight videos. It's a clear walkthrough of how I used a simple system to grow multiple channels past 100,000 subscribers and how you can do it too. Have you heard this advice before? Just start posting videos. You can get good at making them later. If you have, don't listen to those people. YouTube isn't grateful that you just started uploading random slop content, and it won't thank you for it. You won't get any views if you're a creator, and if you're an entrepreneur, there's a real risk that you'll be damaging your brand. It's 2025 and the barrier to entry and growth on YouTube is not how many videos you've uploaded. The barrier is your ability to be targeted and intentional with your content and deliver quality to the right audience. And that's what this structure does. Some people like to present these on whiteboards. I'm not going to do that because I'm left-handed and I once failed an experimental physics exam because the examiner couldn't read my handwriting. So, I'm going to assume you've already picked your target niche on YouTube, and thus we can start with content themes. This can be thought of in a few different ways. For example, a content theme could be the game that you're playing, it could be a subsection of the game that you're playing, like a certain game mode, or it could be the structure of the content itself, like a concept explained in 5 levels of difficulty, or a debate show, or a time-lapse. The important thing is to limit how many initial content themes that you have and to keep the distance between each content theme as short as possible. You want a small number of themes, probably between 1 and 3, because you need to get very good at creating that specific type of content. And the fastest way to do that is through iteration and having someone who's already mastered that type of content teach you exactly how to do it and how to overcome any of the challenges you might face, which is what I teach through my coaching program, Ask Archer. You also need to establish normality and rhythm with your audience, so when they click on your videos, they reliably get what they're expecting, which then keeps the viewer retention high. As an example of content theme selection gone wrong, the Flash TV series, which is about superheroes, had an 8.0 rating on IMDb in season 3 before it suddenly decided to do a musical episode. Then the musical episode released and got a 6.1 rating. Why? Because this is a superhero show about fighting aliens and saving the universe. Those viewers don't want novelty shoehorned in through a random musical episode. If this had happened on YouTube, the algorithm would have had a really nasty negative reaction, as that video collects a lot of bad viewer data, and it also would confuse the algorithm, as now it doesn't know what audience to target because it doesn't have millions of data points on your relatively new channel. And it uses past videos' data and performance as its knowledge base for who to recommend your next video to. For example, if you posted 3 videos playing FIFA and then posted 1 playing Animal Crossing, the 5th video you post is very likely to bomb regardless of what it is, because YouTube doesn't know how to bridge the distance between those 2 audiences that play each of those games. It can learn this over time, but in the beginning you'll see more growth from content that's more closely connected. But if you're insistent on posting back-to-back videos that on the surface have very different topics and you want both videos to perform well, then you need to use the same content structure in each video, because there's a possibility your audience likes that specific content format and isn't too bothered about the underlying topic itself. This only works if your content structure is really distinct. For example, if you're just posting playthroughs of a game, that's very generic and there isn't a very distinctive format or medium for the viewer to enjoy. But if your format is, say, I ask a girl out every time I die in insert game title, and then the video format is you playing the game and then cutting to attempts of you trying to ask a girl out each time you die, now you have a format that will bridge the barrier between the different underlying topics, in this case, different video games. So thematically and structurally, all of your videos are actually the same. Again, when you first start posting on YouTube, it could have a hard time determining your content theme if the underlying topic changes a lot, but if the audience enjoys the theme of videos, eventually you'll get really good analytics and YouTube will prioritize pushing your content. Then once you've chosen your 3 content themes, you need to put them to the test, because all too often people have 1 or 2 good ideas, but they can't reproduce it in other contexts. So to make sure that your channel has longevity, brainstorm for 20 minutes a bunch of video ideas under each of your 3 different content themes. So this is about a 60-minute exercise. To brainstorm effectively, summarize your video in the form of a hook, which is the first 1 or 2 sentences that you would say if you made the video. This will capture the essence of the topic and give you a good base for judging if it's a good video idea or not, because if 2 sentences in the beginning don't sound good, then there's no way the full video will. Then rank every video on a scale of 1 to 10 of how good you think it is, and delete the bottom 80%. This might seem arbitrary, but it's to make sure that you don't end up posting a video just for the sake of having a video to post. Now look at how long your list is. If the list for any of your content themes is less than 5 videos long, that content theme is probably not a good idea for you to pursue, because if you're struggling to come up with ideas now, it's only going to get harder 3 to 6 months down the line. Whilst you're picking what content themes you're going to do, you want to run a little social study and get to know your audience, because this will inform what makes the perfect video, title, and thumbnail, because there's no one-size-fits-all approach on YouTube. Even within each niche, there are audience subcultures which you need to identify at the beginning so you can resonate with them quickly and get positive feedback. If your first few videos get a lot of negative comments, YouTube's sentiment analyzer will crush your future video performance, and any viewers who glance into the comment section will be conditioned into having a really negative view of your video due to herd mentality. So you need to figure out where you can learn about your particular audience and what they're interested in and how they behave. You can obviously do this on YouTube directly by looking through comment sections of your competitors, but given those channels will already have a large audience, the tone will be very different to what your channel's initial audience will be, and this is because the first few viewers a channel gets are the hardcore fans of that niche that are recommended small channels on their homepage and are willing to take a risk of watching a new person. To get a proper impression of what these fans are like, you should go to the most relevant subreddit for your channel's underlying topics. This will give you an impression of how people in that niche talk, so you can tone match your videos to the audience, which will help build relatability. You'll also be able to get an impression of what the gender skew is from the commenters' names, and potentially what regions they're from, which could really affect your future RPM and ability to sell to them. But that's only going to get you a very loose view of your audience demographics, so you'll want to use Google Trends to map out exactly what countries are Googling the most about the type of content that you want to make. This data can then be used as the lens in which you search for finding your model videos and thumbnails. These are examples you will identify and analyze to establish the core principles of what makes a great title and thumbnail specifically within your niche on YouTube and specifically within your subculture and demographic. You can also apply perfect models from other niches onto your niche, but for now, in order to find the perfect model videos in your niche, you want to first identify the top 10 or 20 videos posted within the last 12 months, which you can easily search for and filter on YouTube search, or go directly to the channels and look for their best performing videos. You want to focus on the last 12 months because the YouTube landscape shifts every so often, so just because a video got 5 million views in 2022 with a particular structure doesn't mean that you can use that as a good model today. Therefore, you should look for either recently posted videos or videos that still have a high view velocity, which you can check with a free Chrome extension tool like ViewStats, which will show you the curve of those views over time. Once you've found those high view and high view velocity videos, you need to watch each one and write down key thematics across their hook, content, payoffs, and thumbnails. A perfect video will have harmony between these. You can also gauge the quality of each of those videos by the viewer spikes on the timeline. Once you've identified all of those different features, you can cross-reference them to find the most commonly occurring features, and when you put those together, you'll now have your perfect model video. This is not a rigid structure. It's a reflection of the current state of YouTube and will likely change in the future, so this is just to get you started over the first few months before you find your groove and personal content style. Ultimately, if your goal is a large audience, in order to outperform your competition, at some point you'll have to create your own original content structure that's new, because if you don't, the only way you'll win is if you deliver on the existing popular content formats in a way that's above and beyond the competition. That's an arms race that you won't win because you don't have the budget or the experience to do that, and the YouTube algorithm has a bias to legacy channels over new ones. But that lack of budget can also help inform you on your channel aesthetics. You need to define your editing style, logo, fonts, and color palette before you start creating videos, as this speaks to the overall vibe of your channel or brand. For example, if I started speaking really informally and using Gen Z slang in this video, but then presented a professional looking edit, that lack of coherence will disrupt the audience, because the people who resonate with that style of speech typically don't like traditional presenting formats. That's why a channel like Grade A Under A has really sloppy, scrappy visuals and bad audio, because he himself speaks very casually and in an unrefined way. It's incredibly easy to do this. Consider your content themes and style of speech, then choose an editing style that matches. You can moodboard colors and fonts and storyboard what your on-screen graphics might look like by taking images of existing examples you like, uploading them, and saying to GPT, recreate this image but change the text, the colors, or change the picture of the person to me. This will give you instant variations of that so you don't have to waste time doing it in Photoshop or Canva. Load these into your Notion template and now you've got a full view of your channel aesthetic. This aesthetic can then be used as the driving force for picking what software you need to achieve the look that you want in your videos. This will also be somewhat informed by what your budget is and who is actually producing each part of your content. You'll then want to budget for your video to make sure you can afford all of the software and any freelancers you need to hire, but we're not going to go into that in any more detail in this video because that's not the point. But what we will discuss is your RPM and potential channel revenue, because there's no point starting to make content if you have no clear path to profitability, unless you're doing YouTube purely as a hobby. So I built a YouTube RPM calculator which takes a custom user input in order to estimate an accurate RPM and what your potential revenue per video is so that you'll know if your channel is a good idea and worth the commitment. Now, if you're an entrepreneur, this probably doesn't matter to you because YouTube AdSense isn't the driving force of your business, but at least you'll know if you can fully offset production costs from YouTube views alone. Oh, by the way, anyone can access all of the tools and templates that I've made by joining my school community, which is linked below. Now that you have your finances under control, you want to set meaningful quantitative targets for your channel. This is not arbitrary. Different channels favor different metrics, so you want to be aware which metrics are going to be crucial for you. For example, if you make tutorials on how to use Excel or PowerPoint, your click-through rate is never going to be crazy high because no one gets excited over a video about how to make a pivot table, so you know that's not going to be the key driving force of you getting views. What is a good driver though is how well and how quickly you deliver on the video's title. In other words, your average percentage viewed and 30-second viewer retention matter a lot. Conversely, if you made videos about space exploration news, you'd get a really high click-through rate because there's a lot of drama and flair that you can put on the thumbnail to shock the viewer into clicking. But likely once they start watching the video, they'll be disappointed or learn about all of the news within the first couple of minutes, and because the rest of the video is just filler, they'll click away, so your APV isn't going to be a strong driving factor for you getting views. Just whatever you do, be aware that APV has a stronger weighting in the algorithm, generally speaking, because keeping viewers on the platform is YouTube's main priority. Then once you have your targets, now you can be more focused when making your pilot video. If you followed all of the previous steps and filled in your launch plan template, your pilot will be in pretty good shape, although likely a bit rough around the edges. So your next step is going to be to completely destroy your pilot video. Don't overestimate your own ability here. You will not make a great pilot video. There's a reason that Brandon Sanderson, who many consider to be the greatest fantasy novel writer alive today, and who has the highest rated book of all time on Goodreads, had to write 14 full books before he managed to get one published. And even he says his first published book, Elantris, isn't very good. Once you've finished dismantling your pilot video, you can remake it from the ground up, revisiting your launch plan template to make sure you incorporated all of the attributes you laid out whilst planning. Then it's time to do the really scary part. No, not upload it onto YouTube, you aren't ready for that yet. It's time to send it to a friend. Preferably one who understands the underlying topic you're talking about and isn't afraid of disappointing you. Then you can tweak your video based on the suggestions, and then you'll be ready to upload your video.